sense. And what their purpose is to pull up as much groundwater from below ground as possible and run it through the system. Once they get it through the system, the compression of the water coming up is just going to continually drive this. Now, as it drives it, a lot of the water is trapped below ground. Okay, so it's only got little tiny holes to come up. Okay, so that's pressure relief in part, and also to help make the fine powdery debris come to the surface. Okay, it's important to act as a plug so that no debris from the surface goes back down into the system and fouls it. Okay, the first law of this stuff is no fecal matter shall pass across his feet. Okay, so what that means in today's common English is no cutting dust or grinding dust is allowed to pass over um, some of these areas. Okay, the foot area, it's imperative to keep it clean of debris and only allow the certain size stones that it's pushed down in and started rolling. Okay, so these things are really cleverly put together. They reuse and reuse and transfer power along and then bring it back. That sounds weird, eh? It's about as close to perpetual motion as long as you have that pressure of groundwater below, okay, to start that suction upwards, right? Once it starts itself upwards, it's like siphoning gas from a car, right? Take the hose and, right, and it just flows. Okay, same thing with these systems, only we're not running gas through it. Excuse me, sorry. So these are really complex systems, and they shouldn't be buggered with by just regular people. Doesn't matter whether they're an archaeologist or an archaeologist who thinks he's an engineer. These things are very, very, very well balanced, okay? And they have to be in order to keep these things from flying apart and killing people. I've read stories and blurbs about people walking away from these things and then they just explode, okay? From leaving the pressure built up. I guess the people didn't want this stuff falling into the wrong hands because, as the Mahabharata states, these things are weapons. Okay, they generate a lot of power. They generate a lot of electrical, piezoelectric power with the right stone types. Breathe. So we've got a lot of things going on with these. There's many steps involved, and all the steps are going on all at the same time, all to make chambers, make passages from one chamber to another, and then slowly using the scorpion technique of burrowing below ground. Okay? Anyways, how you know, guys? Keep plugging away at this stuff. The symbology, like I said, is very, very simple. Okay, a bee stings, a bee flies, a bee collects pollen, a bee makes a beehive, a bee makes honeycombs, a bee makes wax, a bee makes babies, and a bee makes drones, and on and on. Everything that you know about that bee is important, and applying it when you see a bee symbol. When you see a fish symbol, be worried because that is a lot of things. Okay. Um, Sorry, guys. I don't mean to be so long, but there's just so much stuff that's just not being picked up. People are leaving their context at the back door because their training and their doctrine forces them not to cross that line. Okay. And sometimes doctrine and training can be the hardest thing for anyone to break themselves of. Okay? People that have had accidents in the past where their body shut down momentarily, they're the best people to teach to read this stuff. Something in the brain, it knocks down all the walls and allows associations to come back. And that only happens with a brain reset. You can use drugs if you wish, but that's only a temporary thing. And once it's worn off, you stop seeing all the commonalities to what it is that the symbol is trying to get us to do. Anyways, this Gobekli Tepe site screams, get me going, but get me going properly. Okay, which means a lot of engineers that are better than me. Okay, so it's going to take a lot of work by a lot of people to get this up and running again. Always in the past, it's always been the rulers who made the decisions of whether these sites were resurrected, reanimated, brought back to life, however you want to put it. Gobekli Tepe seems, and the other Tepe sites seem to be the best set up, the best prepared still, and not completely torn apart. Do I care if the artifacts are missing? Yeah, I do. I'd just like to see what it was that's gone missing, because usually the missing ones are fairly important, and I'm not sure if anybody realizes that when they're buying or selling these things, either on the black market or through regular antiquity sales. It's important to document the site and get it right, because if it doesn't go right, and Turkey finds out that their site's being torn apart by ignorant amateurs, the archaeologists aren't ignorant amateurs. They're very well educated people. It's just that they don't get any more experience in other fields other than their basic common interests. Okay, and that's why archaeologists have a hard time understanding these sites that they're crawling on. They don't know how dangerous they are as well, because these sites, okay, are moving stone. The moving stone can be jarred at any point in time while anyone's on the site because of weight, shifting and distribution, and the vibration of the walking on site. So, and that makes things extra trippy, because if that site slips, if this top plate slips when somebody's standing on it and nobody knows that it's not connected, that's not connected to the ground, right? Someone's going to get hurt. Okay, and that's what I really don't want to have happen. People think that some of these places are booby trapped. They're not booby trapped. They're just left in situ, okay, and ready to go. All they need is that one person who understands the stuff and go for a little walk through the place. Anyways, how you now, guys? Have a good day. Keep plugging away. We're going to get our temple up and running soon. We've gotten so much information from all these sites. Okay, there's not one standard way of doing things, aside from the way that you spin your stones. Okay, the way that they spin the stones is pretty much exactly the same. The techniques, the individual techniques and tactics like the Tepes use, okay, it's stellar. It's an awesome pump system, and it should be respected for what it is. It certainly is a Titan. It's a baby Titan because of the features that it has, okay, as opposed to the features that it doesn't have. Okay, so have a good day.